I think a lot of South Africans feel that the pressure on South Africa must be maintained until they begin to really deliver change.
She's been described as a relentless fighter against injustice throughout her life, a student activist through the 50s and 60s, and the subsequent pressure that forced her into exile in the United States in 1966, where she dedicated her life to the struggle.
And so I went to consult with her.
This friend and colleague says she worked with Davis right up until her passing on October 15th.
I first knew her as an activist. She was heading the American Committee on Africa, the oldest anti-apartheid organization in the United States, which she ran for close to 20 years and worked at before. But she was fearless. She would help design campaigns and mobilize a staff with very little pay and very little time, and a massive movement of volunteers and people who were in the streets on these campaigns over time.
The American Committee on Africa, which Davis led as executive director from 1981 until 2000, afforded Davis a platform through which to strengthen ties with liberation organizations on the continent while galvanizing support here against the apartheid regime through speaking engagements from college campuses to Congress.
To get the Comprehensive Anti-Apartheid Act passed in 1985, before that, which synchronized with the movements in the streets in South Africa and the Defiance Campaign. At the same time, she was building a movement here that paralleled the protest movements in South Africa. And she and other organizations that she helped to bring together, so I was working with the Interfaith Center on Corporate Responsibility, there was Trans-Africa, there were Washington Office on Africa, many activist organizations that brought people out from congregations, from campuses, from communities themselves that came out to oppose apartheid.
She was part of the organizing committee that would plan the first visit to the United States by former President Nelson Mandela, soon after his release from prison in 1990.
She played a wonderful role, particularly not only in bringing the groups that she had helped organize before and that American Committee on Africa had helped organize, but also the cultural community, because she had helped through ACOA bring together the album I Ain't Gonna Play in Sun City.
You got to say I ain't gonna play Sun City.
And it was that Sun City album that brought out musical luminaries to capture people's imagination and attention. And also the slogan that came out of that was keep the pressure on. And we did.
This was Davis volunteering at a Mandela Day cleanup in Central Park in 2011.
It's enormously important for us to remember what his contribution to South Africa and to the world was. He was a freedom fighter, and by that I really mean he meant to change society. Things to remember are the courage, the determination to keep on working, the ability to look at people and recognize that they can change and they may change, but never to move off your fundamental principles. He was an extraordinarily principled man.
A woman who recognized that even with democracy in 1994, that economic justice was still a long way off for the majority of South Africans. Donna, you worked with Jennifer Davis right up until her death. She was part of your advisory board here at Shared Interest. What is it about this anti-apartheid stalwart that you want a younger generation and perhaps even an older generation of South Africans to know?
People need to remember that she was courageous, that she was humble, that she was tremendously visionary, and not only visionary in the big sense of being able to say apartheid was a system of white power and black poverty. That struggle continues, and she was someone who planted in us the seed to carry it forward, to understand that even though we may not live to see total victory, that we will continue and pass it on.
Davis, who was honoured with a national order in 2009 for her diligent service to South Africa, is survived by her partner, 2 children and 5 grandchildren. Donations in her name can be made to the Shared Interest Jennifer Davis Fund for the Future. which mobilizes resources for Southern Africa's economically disenfranchised communities, or to the African Activist Archive. Jennifer Davis was 85. Chauvin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.